Hello, everyone. BBS community, I'm happy to be here again. I'm Dr. Frumi Rachel Barr, and today we're navigating the funding jungle of business with Leo Kanell, the founder of Seven Figures Funding, sevenfigures.com, Soft Pull Credit, and the Seven Figures Club podcast. As a renowned startup and business funding expert, Leo is hailed across review sites like Trustpilot, Yelp, and Amazon as a caring, experienced, and educated business and finance guru. And I've experienced that too. People know Leo teaches and guides entrepreneurs through the rough terrain that is finding startup capital for new or existing businesses. Gaining over $500 million in funding for his clients so far, Leo has proven himself to overcome the odds set against entrepreneurs again and again. Even though 95% of businesses are unable to obtain venture capital or angel investors, Leo Kanell has only seen success in working personally with thousands of entrepreneurs around the world who search desperately for the capital to establish and operate their businesses. I'm chatting with Leo today for our business community, offering you an opportunity to fund your courses or your businesses. So let's dive in, Leo. When it comes to funding a new business, there's often a perception that venture capital or crowdfunding are the only options, yet they only make up about 5% of funding sources each. So what are some other viable options for the other 90% of entrepreneurs?
Dr. Barr, that's a great question. And the bottom line is when it comes to funding your brand new business is a lot of the times we think, oh, I'll just go raise capital with venture capital, private equity. And the reality is it's never been more difficult because so many of these venture capital companies invested a lot of money 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right after the pandemic. And those investments actually didn't turn out so well because they were investing in a lot of superficial ideas, a lot of AI-themed companies that actually haven't taken off. And so that's a very difficult spot. The next thing we think of is, I'll just go down the street to my local bank. And that was what I tried to do over a decade ago. I was raising capital for a new business of mine. I thought, wow, I've got a good relationship with my bank. I've been there over a decade. Surely they'll give me, a loan for $50,000. And they did not. They said no. And that was when I realized how difficult it is to get access to financing for a new business. And so then after that, I started to create different funding marketplaces of options, whether that's loans, lines of credit, business credit cards with a 0% interest rate. And over time, we've been fortunate to serve tens of thousands of small business owners, including many brand new business owners with no proven revenue, without a 10-page business plan, but with our strategies and funding formula, we've been able to get them, hundreds of millions of dollars to get off the ground.
And it's even harder when you're a woman to raise money.
Sure.
I remember going into a bank years ago, and after they had a whole discussion with me, they asked for my husband to come in and co-sign.
Dr. Barr, I will say this about, the year that we're living in and how far things have come. And I would say that is certainly the statistics back up what you're saying even today when it comes to venture capital and private equity, where there's a lot of subjective decision-making. But with our funding marketplace of options, I would say on average, women have a higher credit score. And because they have a higher credit score in our unique funding marketplace, typically they end up getting a little bit more funding oftentimes than men do. Also because of the way they manage risk, I think is another piece of that puzzle. And so while I definitely agree with what you're saying, and the data shows that in private equity and venture capital, perhaps it doesn't seem to be the case when it comes to qualifying based off of credit, which when you're a new business owner is very important. So that's good news.
Very good news. I love to hear that. So for entrepreneurs just starting out, what steps should they take to make their business attractive to lenders? Is there like a specific funding formula that you've seen that works over and over again?
There is. And I think you started out with it where you were talking about relationships and building a relationship with a local bank manager. The interesting thing we have in today's world is there are these virtual relationships, and there are these relationship managers that work virtually for some of the big lenders out there. And they will help a new business owner get access to $25,000, $50,000, even as much as $100,000 in a business credit line that comes with a 0% interest rate. And those are some of the relationships that we've established. And when we find someone who's a good fit for that, who has done a good job of managing their personal FICO score, they pay their bills on time. And one of the key factors every lender will look at for a small business owner or a new business owner in getting that access to $25,000 to $100,000 is going to be how they manage their personal credit cards. If they are all maxed out and you go to apply, well, first off, your credit score is going to be a lot lower because 30% of your credit score is calculated based on how you manage credit cards. And number two, it's also going to lead to a lot of auto denials because they're going to say, wow, you're about ready to default on everything. You're maxed out on everything. We can't approve you for anything business because that's how you manage your personal life. And so what you want to do is, yes, make your payments on time, but two, before you go and apply for financing, you want to get those credit card balances down below 50 and even 30% of the credit card limit. Do that, you'll have a higher score, and you'll also be much more likely to get approved for financing for a new business, because when you're small and you're a new business owner, they're going to always take a look at personal credit first.
So could you break down some key tips for maintaining a strong personal credit and why it matters so much for new ventures?
Yeah, absolutely.
Expand.
So step one, make those payments on time. That means using automatic payment methods, right? Every financial account that you have these days has an online login where you have online access to manage it. And it's funny, I was just talking with one of my really good friends, and the gentleman has perfect credit. He's never been late on anything. And he had not used his Apple Card in years, and he didn't have that Apple Card on automatic payments. And he used the Apple Card, not even realizing he was using it, and he fell 30 days late on that Apple credit card payment because he never used it. He didn't think twice about it. And that's why every account you have should always have automatic payments turned on, which is very easy in today's world. Not so easy 15, 20 years ago, as you and I know, but very easy in today's world to do that. So that's number one. Set up automatic payments so the payments are made on time. Number two is what we just talked about, credit card balances. When you go to apply for anything, keep the balances below 50% of the limit or even below 30%, and you'll have a much higher credit score. Next, you want to have multiple types of credit, including a mortgage, a car loan, and a credit card. Student loans are not very helpful. In fact, they're usually viewed negatively. So if you can get those consolidated into one big student loan, that's going to be advantageous for your credit. And of course, if you can get those paid off, that's going to be good too. So having different types of credit. The next thing lenders are going to look at is how much new credit do you have? Did you just open a bunch of new accounts? They want to see your accounts are established with multiple years of history. And so you want to avoid opening any new accounts when you're going to go apply for financing for your business. And as part of that, they'll also look at inquiries. If you have many, many inquiries on your credit over the last 6 to 12 months, then that can lead to a lot of automatic denials. Now, the good news is there are strategies and ways. Sometimes I know we go buy a car and some car loan broker makes a big mistake and he puts 10 inquiries on your credit that you didn't even ask for. Well, there are ways to legitimately get those unauthorized inquiries removed. If you have maxed out credit cards and you don't have cash to pay them down, there are strategies in our marketplace where you can get a loan, pay down those credit cards, your score will go up 30 to 50 points, and then you'll be able to qualify. So there are a lot of solutions that are involved in creative financing that you can harness if you're in a spot where, oh, I'm right there, I might qualify if I could do this, I don't have the cash. There are solutions that can be found.
I'm sure you are relieving a lot of people of the things that keep them up at night right now, like listening to you. So one of the most appealing options you offer is funding at 0% interest. So for our listeners, could you explain how an entrepreneur can qualify for this and what compliance steps they need to follow?
Yeah, you bet you. I love sharing stories about some of our client case studies. And there was a young woman by the name of Tara who was starting a beauty salon, and she was starting it in Colorado, and she had a lot of experience. She saved $20,000 up. for the business. She went to apply at her bank. Her bank said no. They said, no, you don't have 2 years of profitable business tax returns. You don't have collateral, and you don't have experience as a business owner. And then she came our way, and we got on the phone with her, and I explained, well, hey, if you ask this credit card lender to increase your credit limit, that will increase your credit score. She did, and her credit score went up 25 points. And so the next step she needed to have was her business entity needed to be set up. So she had the LLC set up in the state of Colorado, got her tax ID number from the IRS, which is a very simple process. We also assist with that. And then once she had the business set up and the business bank account set up, then she was in a position where she could start looking for financing for the business, because we took the steps to get her credit score increased and her credit balance much lower than the credit limit, below 45% of the limit. Then we were able to acquire $70,000 in 0% interest cards that she was able to use to launch her business. Now, the best part in this country that you can actually get 0% interest financing is she was able to pay all that money back during the 0% interest period with the sales from her business. She invested in a beautiful space, equipment. She hired a few very quality employees, and she grew that business. She paid all of the debt back before the 0% interest period expired. And I bumped into her at an event a couple years later. She was buying her own building, opening her second location, had 20 employees. And so that's the magic of being able to start a business powered by these 0% interest card stacking strategies.
That must have felt pretty good for you to hear, right?
Well, absolutely, because you don't always know how the story ends after you get them financing. Sometimes you hear back from them, sometimes you don't. And so, yeah, it was awesome to be able to hear about her success and the success of so many others we've been fortunate to serve. And while government likes to talk about creating, jobs, we actually do by getting entrepreneurs money to start and grow businesses.
I love it. So there's a lot of hesitation, obviously, about debt in the business world, with people like Mark Cuban famously advising against it. So how do you respond to this mindset? And why do you believe debt can be a powerful tool when used correctly?
It's a great question. And Mark Cuban actually did start different businesses with a lot of creative financing ideas. So always nice. But he was pointing out that really you should just come get some venture capital at Shark Tank, where he's been at the last several years. And interestingly enough, one of his partners on Shark Tank, Damon John, has the answer for us. And the answer is, you want to take out financing for a business when you have proof of concept that the product or service you're going to be selling, number one, has a need, fulfills a need in the marketplace, and number two, that you can do it profitably. And so that's what's great. When you have proof of concept, that's the time to take out financing. And in the example I gave earlier of Tara, well, she already knew the business. She knew it very well. She was just working for someone else. She had her pricing model figured out. She had experience within her industry. She had proof of concept. She just needed an opportunity to, launch her own business. And so that is important. You don't want to just go out and take a bunch of financing based on a marketing strategy that's unproven, or putting, a bunch of ads on billboards when you don't have any proof that that actually works. Now, if you have proof that your product or service fits a need, that you can do it profitably, that you can bring customers and clients in the door, then that's when it's good to move forward. But in essence, you actually don't want to go out and take financing until you have that proof of concept, or you might make some very big mistakes.
Makes a lot of sense to me. So many of our community have small and medium-sized businesses. How can offering funding options to their clients boost their own sales and customer retention?
I was reading a book by a great entrepreneur once, and he said, listen, if you want to grow and scale your business, one of the quickest ways to do it, especially if you have higher ticket items, is to be able to provide financing. Think about the car industry. If cars could only be obtained by paying cash, there'd be a lot less cars on the road. But because people can get loans to purchase these cars, homes, and other major items, sales are able to happen. The economy is able to move forward. and the wheels of progress move forward. And so at the end of the day, if you're offering a package that's $5,000, $15,000, $25,000, $50,000, especially if you're a B2B professional providing marketing services or coaching and training programs, which are very valuable in today's marketplace, and you don't have a financing option, by being able to provide financing options to your prospects, now you're going to likely increase your sales by 30 to 40%, because oftentimes the number one objection is, wow, I'd really like to work with you, Dr. Barr, but I'm a little bit short on cash and capital right now. Oh, no problem. I've got a funding partnership right here. Here's a quick link. There's no negative impact to your credit. You can get a free pre-approval at 0% interest in order to make that investment confidently. When you can offer that to your clients and prospects, you're going to close a lot more deals. So the next most important question is, well, how do I make sure I'm connecting with somebody of quality? And it's not very hard to find out these days, right? It's not like it's 1995 and you hope somebody does a good job. If you don't do a good job, the people who have a bad experience are 10 times louder than those that do, and there will be a negative review online very quickly. And so you can really see the transparency between online reviews, Better Business Bureau ratings, and even content. If somebody has actual content that is about the problem that they solve or the solution that they offer, wow, you can really find out quickly if you're dealing with somebody with expertise or not.
And that's why we're working with you at Barr Business School. Exactly why, because we feel that so many, really believe strongly in continuing education.
Yes.
And we teach things like strategy and execution and cash management, and we want that to be available to our community. So that's why we're talking, which is fabulous. So pre-approval is often seen as a daunting process. So can you walk us through how someone can get a free pre-approval with seven-figure funding and what they can expect to learn about their funding options?
Great question. The number one concern most people have in looking at a pre-approval to launch or start a business is this going to negatively impact my credit? Loan officers across the country have scared people so significantly, nobody wants to take a hard credit inquiry because it may reduce your credit score a small amount. And so the question you want to ask yourself is, can I get a free pre-approval without negative impact to my credit? Now, unfortunately, if you go down the street to your local bank, every single one of them, for reasons unknown to me, have archaic systems. And whether you take a loan or qualify or whatever, they will ding your credit with a hard inquiry pull. Now, when you apply with our funding marketplace at Seven Figures Funding, we have partnered up with Experian. It's a soft credit check. There's no negative impact to get your free pre-approval options with rates as low as 0% interest. So that provides a lot of confidence and trust, knowing you can get your options, not have to worry about any impact to your credit. And then the next thing that's always been important to me, and I think is important to everybody that applies, is how do I know I'm really getting the best option that I qualify for and that exists on the marketplace? And so for us at Seven Figures, we wanted to create a full marketplace with every option. So anybody who applies, regardless of what stage of business they're in or where they're located, is going to get the best option that they qualify for and that exists in our country of financing options. And as long as they know those two things, then they can confidently move forward. And it saves them a lot of time, because it can take a lot of time and research to try and even have an idea of what your best option is.
Okay. So for those entrepreneurs who might already be dealing with high interest debts, what are some strategies to move those debts to lower, even 0% interest rates, to improve their cash flow? You kind of alluded to that earlier. Can you share more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with life, with business, we have unexpected expenses. Sometimes when we're trying to launch a business, we think we have a proof of concept and we invest in a marketing campaign or something, and it doesn't work out, and we have to restructure and restart over. And when we do that, so oftentimes we end up with some high balances on credit cards, and we've seen credit card rates have gone up higher than they ever have. And so you might have 20, 30. I think I heard Dave Ramsey say the other day, the average family or consumer in the U.S. has $37,000 in credit card debt personally, not used for business reasons, for a business with proof of concept, but just living life whatever that might be. And if they're paying a 25% interest rate, well, geez, that's probably costing them over $10,000 a year in interest alone. And so what we'll do with somebody like that is we will actually get them a loan, pay some of those balances down, their credit score goes up, and then in the second step, they'll qualify for 0% interest financing. And when they can take that entire balance and move it over to 0% interest for the next 15 to 18 months, that literally saves them over $10,000 a year in interest, because now instead of every payment going towards interest, now it's actually going to the principal balance of the loan and it's reducing it. And now you're getting a lower balance and you're saving $10,000 a year in interest in that example. And that's a powerful, powerful strategy. It's just as simple as if, you took out a mortgage earlier when rates were really high and now rates are a lot lower and you can refinance and save $3,000 or $4,000 a year. It's the same concept. Can I move something that's a higher interest to a lower interest? And if I can do that, then I'm going to win.
Thank you. So as we start winding down here, and you mentioned that you have a special offer where entrepreneurs can receive your book and credit resources just for applying. So could you tell us more about this offer and how it's helped people take their first steps toward securing funding?
Absolutely. You want to deliver value first to whatever business you're in before somebody even decides to work with you. And so there's three things that somebody gets access to immediately anytime they apply for financing as seven figures funding. The first is they're getting a no impact free pre-approval of all of their options presented to them free of charge. So that's number one. The second thing they get, and you alluded to it, is a digital copy of my book, The Business Funding Formula, how entrepreneurs are using the business funding formula to scale exponentially with their businesses, both new and established. That book we give out for free to everybody who applies. And then the third thing we give out for free is access to our credit college platform. I don't know about you, Dr. Barr, but no one taught me a lot about credit and money in high school or college. No. And that's why your business school is here, to help educate people. And that's why we give everybody free access to credit college just for applying. We want them to share it with friends, family, because we're on a mission to eradicate disinformation related to credit once and for all. Because once you understand it, you'll pay less in interest, and that'll make for a better life for you and your family. So those are the three items you get access to when you apply with seven figures funding.
And we're on a mission to change that grim statistic that 90% of businesses fail. And it's usually because people don't know how to plan. They don't know all the things that you teach, obviously. So Leo, tell our viewers how they can best contact you. And then, of course, we'll share a link with our community to your services. So if they want to reach you, LinkedIn, where?
Exactly right. So just as Dr. Barr said, there's going to be a link at the bottom of this show that you can access your free funding pre-approval, from Dr. Barr. And so all of those three gifts will be available once you apply there. And then the next best way to connect with me is I'm very active on LinkedIn. I share a lot of free content about entrepreneurship, about growing a small business, about marketing and leadership and management and technology and all these things. So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's Leo, last name Kanell, Kanell. Love to connect with you on LinkedIn. As Gary Vaynerchuk says, it's the most underutilized social media platform in the world for business. So it's a good place to be active. And you know what people don't mind speaking about on that platform? Business, sales, and working together. So it's a great place to connect.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Leo, for sharing this time with me. I'm Dr. Frumi Rachel Barr, and this is Navigating the Jungle of Business. See you again next time.